Well, today we'll go for three-phase induction motor. What is actually three-phase induction motor? How the motor works? So here earlier we have seen in the previous article in DC generator. In DC generator, the motor will be rotating by the process of conduction. What is the process of conduction? We have to give the current to the armature winding, then it becomes current carrying conductor. Then it is when placed inside a magnetic field, then it will be experiencing a force. But here the process will be something different. So in three-phase induction motor, actually what happens? The rotation of the rotor, here we will be having two parts. Earlier we had two parts, armature and field, or stator and rotor. Here also you do have two parts, one is stator, next one is rotor. So generally the outer part is known as stator and the inner part is known as rotor. So here, what is actually how the structure will be there? The structure of the stator will be a cylindrical hollow. It is a kind of cylindrical hollow kind of structure. Okay, and slots at the inner periphery. At the inner periphery, so once suppose this is a cylindrical structure, will be having inner periphery and will be having the outer periphery. So here at the inner periphery there will be slots. Slots means the place where we can put the windings. The slots will be there. Okay, and inside the slot, inside that particular slot at the inner periphery, we'll be having three-phase star or Y star or delta connected winding. So we'll be having either star or delta connected winding in that particular slot, like this. Here slots are there, so inside the slot we'll be having either star or delta connected. Now the point is, what is done, we have to give the supply to these windings. To these windings we have to give the supply. What supply? As it is three-phase winding, you have to give the three-phase AC supply to these windings. Then what happens here? See, whenever, suppose we do have a one-phase winding to the one-phase winding, like your transformer. Whenever we will be giving AC supply to a one-phase winding, then the flux will be created, magnetic field will be created, and that magnetic field will be linking to this particular conductor. So here there will be induced EMF in this conductor. But now instead of giving a three-phase or single-phase supply, here we have to give three-phase supply. So whenever the three-phase supply is given to a three-phase winding, like all of you know that there will be three induced EMF here, or we can say we will be having three number of fluxes, and each flux will be having this kind of expression. So already you know that whenever a flux is any sinusoidal quantity is there, it can be represented by a vector. It is simply a vector. Now three number of fluxes are there, there will be three number of fluxes simultaneously created. And as the result, whenever we will be having more than one number of, you can say, vector, the result will be having a resultant vector. So the resultant vector is what? At every point we will be having one vector. That vector is known as the resultant vector. Which resultant vector? Flux resultant vector, in the form of flux. Okay, and see, once it is only a alternating flux, then the nature will be simply like this. Clear? But whenever there will be more than one number of fluxes acting simultaneously, then now whatever the resultant flux will be there, the property or the structure of that flux will not be of this kind. It will be simply rotating in nature. It will be rotating with a constant speed. So now ultimately whatever the flux is created from these windings, now those fluxes will be revolving or rotating with a constant speed, and that speed of this rotating or revolving flux is known as synchronous speed. So it's a very important point. What is actually synchronous speed? The speed of the revolving magnetic field produced from started three-phase winding. That is known as synchronous speed. Okay, so generally synchronous speed, whatever is produced, it is always proportional to the number of it is always proportional to frequency. Whatever the frequency of the supply, it will be inversely proportional to the number of poles. So that is why generally it is represented as ns as equals to 120 f divided by p. This is the general expression for synchronous speed. So actually this is the system. See, suppose it is a star connected three phase winding. You want to give a supply, three phase AC supply. Then from each winding you will be having one flux. And finally whenever you will be drawing, suppose the phasor diagram for this one flux we can take as reference red, yellow lagging by 120 degree. This one I can write as yellow. Next blue leading by 120 degree, I can represent this one as the blue. So at any point, suppose at any point we will see at this point we have some value of phi r, some value of phi y, some value of phi b. So once I will be adding them, then we will be having a expression of phi resultant. So we will be having a phi resultant. And if you want to measure this one at every point, the value will be same. At every point the value of phi resultant will be same. Okay, and that constant flux is known as the resultant flux, and it will be always revolving nature, and it will be revolving with a constant speed, that is known as synchronous speed. Okay, next, the material of the starter is generally made up of cast iron or cast steel. So these are generally ferromagnetic kind of material having very high permeability and low reactivity, like your materials used in DC generator motor, or you can say in transformer. Here we will be having the material as cast iron or cast steel. Clear? Which material? Starter. Why? Because whenever the flux will be developing, it will be again linking to the starter. So whenever you know that whenever there is a change in flux in a particular magnetic material, then definitely there will be some losses. So to minimize the loss, what kind of loss? Again iron loss or your iron loss. So what loss is there? Under iron loss we will be having eddy current loss and hysteresis loss. So to minimize them, we will be using this kind of material. Again it will be laminated form of cast iron and cast steel. So the next part of the induction motor is the rotor. So finally you have seen that under starter, in the air gap of the starter at the inner periphery part, there will be the production of revolving magnetic field. So revolving magnetic field means it is a kind of field which will be rotating nature. Like suppose there is a rotating field, and under that influence I am putting this shaft. This is suppose a shaft, or you can say this is a material. Then ultimately it will be rotating. Yes, it will be rotating. Clear? So now what will be the structure of the rotor? Rotor is again a solid cylindrical structure. Solid means it was a hollow, starter was a hollow. Now this one, the rotor will be solid. Means there will be rotor core. At the outer periphery, we have already seen the inner periphery. Now at the outer periphery of the rotor, there will be rotor slots like this. Clear? So now rotor will be having of two structures. There will be two structures for the rotor. In one kind of structure, what happens? The structure will be like squirrel cage. Squirrel cage means what? It will be a kind of cage like structure, cylindrical cage like structure. So, and see, wherever at the outer periphery there will be the rotor slots. On that rotor slots we have to put some copper or aluminum bars, because generally this is a kind of conductor. Conductor is made up of copper or aluminum, so you need to put copper or aluminum bars here. Okay, and then at the end of the bar, because the structure must be a squirrel cage kind of structure, so at the end of the bar you will be having the end rings. End rings means to make the winding short circuit. Clear? So earlier whenever we have some bar, ultimately for each bar will be having some kind of, you can say, some resistances will be there. Okay, so once the end ring or once those bars are permanently short circuited at the end, that means what we can say, whatever the earlier resistance will be there, that resistance will be there during the operation. So what happens here? Why we will be needing this one, or why we will be doing this one? Because under this one we cannot add any external resistance to the circuit. So whenever the external resistance cannot be added to the rotor circuit, then ultimately what happens? The speed of the rotor will be depending on the external resistance. If we don't have any external resistance, then we don't have any variation in the speed. So it is generally used for the constant speed motor. Okay, so what is done? Again I am repeating here. will be having the rotor conductors as in the form of aluminum or copper bars at the outer periphery of the rotor, and each bar will be made short circuited at the end by end rings. Clear? So that whatever the resistance will be there, see, whenever it will be rotating, it has to rotate. So once there is a revolving magnetic field, under that influence this particular rotor will be rotating. Now once it will be rotating, then the flux will be caught by this particular conductor. So in each conductor there will be induced EMF. Okay, so whatever the induced EMF will be there, if will be permanently short circuited here, whatever the original resistance will be there for this conductor, those will be validating till the end. So ultimately what happens? Now there will be no change in resistance. Whatever the original resistance will be there, that resistance will be there. So there will be no change in resistance. Whenever there will be no change in the rotor resistance, then there will be no, we can say, variation of the speed. Whatever the speed will be there, that will be constant. Okay, so one part is there, in one rotor will be having the constant speed at the output rotor. Clear? And once the rotor will be rotating, it will be rotating with a particular speed that is known as the actual speed of the induction motor, or actual speed of the rotor. Speed of the rotor or actual speed of the induction motor, and generally it is represented as capital N. So actual speed, once the actual speed is there, that is generally represented as N. Next point is, you can see now Ns will be always greater than N. Why? Because due to Ns only the rotor is rotating. So the speed which will be rotating a particular machine, that speed will be always greater than the speed of the machine. So that is why Ns is always greater than N. Now another very important parameter is there in the induction motor, that is known as slip. So what is actually slip? It is the difference between Ns and N, and generally it is represented as Ns in the form of Ns, or with respect to Ns, that is Ns minus N divided by Ns. If it is represented in percentage, then it will be percentage of slip as equals to this one. Okay, next point, Ns already you have seen, this is the value of Ns. Clear? Acha, another point is there, that is rotor current frequency. So see, whenever we have starter part, there will be Ns. Once will be going towards rotor, or once it will be having the frequency of the starter. Frequency of the starter means what? Supply frequency. Supply frequency is F. Whenever it will be going to the rotor circuit, there is a factor that is multiplied with that starter part, that is known as S. Clear? So whenever you want to find out the rotor current frequency, that is generally represented as F dash, which is equals to S multiplied by F. Clear? Acha. So now this is all about the squirrel cage induction motor. Now we'll be going to the second induction motor, or second type of rotor. According to the rotor, the induction motor again are divided into two categories. One is squirrel cage, one is slip ring. Okay, so what is actually slip ring? See, same structure. We'll be having the outer periphery of the rotor. There will be having the rotor slot. Here in the rotor slot, we have to put three-phase star connected winding. So there in the starter will be having star or delta connected winding. Here in the rotor will be having star connected winding. So what happens here? Whenever this rotor is rotating, this one also will be rotating. This is a star connected winding. This part. Okay. So this part also will be rotating. So whenever this part will be rotating, now what happens? There will be induced EMF. Now the point is, whatever the induced EMF will be there, clear, it will be producing a current. So once we can change that current, we can change the speed. So how to change the current? See, why we have taken star connected winding? Because how to change the resistance here? We have to add some external resistance. So external resistance means what? You have to use the rheostat. So rheostat will be of star structure. Rheostat will be of star structure. So that is why whatever the winding we have to take, that winding must be star connected. So once it is star connected, then only we can have star connected rheostat. So here the star connected rheostat, to connect this rheostat will be using slip rings here. This medium is known as slip ring. So in the name of slip ring, you have we have slip ring kind of induction motor, or slip ring kind of rotor. So here we will be having the external resistances, those to be added here. Those have been added to this particular circuit, to the external circuit of this, which one? Star connected winding. So that whenever we will be changing the resistance, the current will be changed here. Once the current will be changed, the speed also is changed. Okay, so in that way we have three phase star connected winding in the rotor part. That is why this kind of rotor is known as slip ring kind of rotor, and the induction motor is known as slip ring induction motor. So here this is generally used whenever we need the variable speed at the output. If the speed you want to change in an induction motor, then we'll be using what? A slip ring kind of induction motor. So the next part is torque slip characteristics of a three-phase induction motor. So see, one point you have to simply remember here, whatever the torque is produced in the rotor part under running condition, there will be two torques. One is starting torque, which is much more greater than the running torque, because this torque is a very high torque to start the rotation. Once the rotation is started in the induction motor, then the rotor will be having a constant torque. And now that torque is proportional to, generally, because torque is ultimately in the form of speed, it will be responsible for the speed. It will be proportional to your, which one? Current in the rotor part. Next, flux, how much flux is linking to the rotor conductor, and finally power factor of the rotor conductor. Okay, so power factor of the rotor winding. Now how to represent this I2C? Now I can write I2 as equals to, generally what is rotor, as it is a AC circuit. In AC circuit, current will be always voltage by impedance. So what will be the voltage here? The voltage will be S multiplied by E2. See, if it is suppose the starting case, then slip will not be coming, slip will be 1, because ns will be the value of what, n will be equals to 0. So ns divided by ns, it will be 1. So s will be 1. But once it is coming running 1, once it is under running condition, then there will be some s. Okay, divided by resistance will be generally constant. So resistance, whether it is starting or running, the resistance value will be same. Plus, see, whenever we will be going for the reactance, as per the reactance is always a variable one, because it will be depending on frequency. So whenever it is under running condition, then it will be s multiplied by x2. If it is at the starting condition, then it will be only x2. Okay, so the starting torque from this one also you can define the starting torque, that will be equals to how much here, e2 by this one r2 square plus x2 square root over. Similarly, multiplied by flux multiplied by cos phi r by z. So as we are representing here z, similarly we can write this one as z. Okay, so finally torque is proportional to s multiplied by e2 divided by r2 square plus s into x2 square. Clear? Achha. So at starting your n is equals to 0. S will be valid when it is running condition. There will don't have the value of n as equals to 0. Next, see, to draw the characteristics between TR and S. Actually, you have to draw the characteristics between TR and S. What you have to do, first you have to take very small values of S. So when S is very small, then what happens? The see this expression, when S is very small, SS square, this one will be in term of SS square. So SS square will be much more smaller, and R2 square will be much more greater than this one. So what happens? This one will be greater than this one, very much greater than this one. So we can ignore this one in comparison to this one. So how much will be there? It will be only E2 S into E2 divided by R2 square. S into E2 divided by R2 square. Okay. So now ultimately we can write that TR is proportional to S. So when TR is proportional to S, then what happens? You have, this one is directly proportional. So once it is directly proportional, then we have a graph like this. So for small values of S small. Clear? So when S small, your TR is directly proportional to S. So you will have a straight or velocity graph like this. Clear? Achha. Next point will come. So see, whenever we are drawing the characteristics, we will be drawing according to the denominator part. So denominator part, this one will be first ignored as compared to this one. Similarly, when these two parts are same, means when R2 is equals to S2. So whenever the value of R2 will be first S2, S into X2 will be very small, then S into X2 will be equals to R2. So that is actually the condition for maximum torque. So when it is the condition of maximum torque, then as the value of S will be increasing, one point will come when actually this point. So actually this point is there. Okay, so corresponding to this point you have the value of R2 as equals to S into X2. So here we have maximum torque. Again further if we will be increasing the value of S, S becomes very large. So as S becomes very large, what we can say, this factor will be much more greater than this factor. So when this factor is much more greater than this factor, we can ignore R2 square as comparison to S square X2 square. So here again what we can write? We can write the value of your torque. See, here we can write torque is inversely proportional to S. So as torque is inversely proportional to X, so what kind of graph will be getting? We'll be getting a rectangular hyperbola. It is nothing but a rectangular hyperbola. Clear? It is a rectangular hyperbola. So this is actually your torque slip characteristics. So whenever the question is coming, you can simply take three parts. For first three part, we have a straight line, then maximum torque. Beyond that one, we have a rectangular hyperbola kind of graph. So next one is one phase induction motor. Under one phase induction motor, only you have to know the basic operation. Only introduction is there. So how to know the basic operation? See, now what is done here, we have to give a, as the name suggests, here we have a single phase supply to a single phase winding. So as all of you know that whenever the single phase supply, AC supply is given to a single phase winding, then only we can produce a flux, magnetic flux like this. And that magnetic flux will be only alternating in nature. It will not be revolving, because for induction, process of induction, we need to produce a revolving flux, revolving field. So for that one, what we need to do here, first of all, this one is generally known as the starter winding. Okay, so here now we need to anyhow produce a revolving field. To produce a revolving field, what we will do now, let us connect a different winding here. So whenever we will be connecting a different winding here, now we will take a switch in such a way that, first of all, see, if we will be connecting a different winding here, now the flux, whatever the current will be going here, that current is divided into two types, means two parts. It will be having two parts. One will be going in this way, one will be going in this way. So this will be producing a field, this will be producing a field. So whenever we will have more than one number of field, then only we can have a revolving field. In that field, if I will be putting a rotor, that rotor can rotate. Okay, so now here we have to temporarily take another winding. So here the switch, this particular switch is known as centrifugal switch. The name is, why the name is like this? Because it can be automatically disconnected whenever your task is satisfied. Whenever the task is done, it can be automatically disconnected. So now once the revolving flux is created, then after this switch will be disconnecting this winding. Okay, and that is why this is generally known as the, see, this is known as centrifugal switch, this is known as main winding, and this one is known as auxiliary winding. Which one? The additional winding which is temporarily taken. So auxiliary winding will be there. So only this is used for the starting purpose. That's why it is known as the starting winding. This one is once the motor starts rotating, then after this one is disconnected, only this winding will be there. That is known as the running winding. Okay. So this particular, this is generally named as split phase, because the phase is splitted here. Split phase kind of one phase induction motor. This is known as split phase. Here the phase is splitted into two parts. Okay, so this is all about the one phase induction motor. Very simple. And the process of creating this revolving magnetic field, that process is known as two phase this is known as two phase revolving theory. Clear? Two phase revolving theory means what? Now you have to convert the single phase into two phase, and finally we can produce a revolving magnetic field. So this is the complete process of one phase induction motor. Okay, the material will be same, starter rotor material will be same, but here we will be having single phase supply instead of three phase AC supply.